police department, so some things that I might say are solidly my personal perspective on things. So some of the things that I talk about or discuss, it's not in any way representation of the police department. I'm not getting paid to be here. I'm not in uniform. Okay, so that's the second part. But some of the things are pretty important. So inshallah, if I can have undivided attention, because it's very important. Unfortunately, I see that, just like we are all witnesses when some bad actions, and I'm not here to judge anybody, but when some people's Muslims bad actions are posted on the news, it affects all Muslims. Okay, and essentially we feel like our religion gets hijacked. So understand, I am a Muslim law enforcement, not the other way around. I'm not a law enforcement that happens to be Muslim. There's a difference. My identity is Islam, and my career is law enforcement. Just a little bit of introduction for those of you who don't know me. My name is Yusuf Arafa. I started my law enforcement career with Panama City Beach Police Department in 2015, and I spent about a year and a half to 2 years as a detective there. After working as a detective, I moved back to patrol. Alhamdulillah, I got promoted to corporal in 2022, so almost 4 years. Essentially, that's just a fancy term for supervisor. But that's a little bit about me. I also, alhamdulillah, went to the FBI LIDA. Recently graduated from FBI LIDA, which is like a leadership institute of courses. So alhamdulillah, I just recently graduated there. But anyway, where do I start? So it's unfortunate that the actions of some people, law enforcement, has hijacked law enforcement in this country, and it's very disheartening to me, and it angers me to see people's rights get violated. As a professional, I am bound to protect people's rights, and I'm an agent of people's rights. So I want to make sure that everybody here knows their rights, and how to go about exercising your rights if you're ever in contact with law enforcement in any way, shape, or form. And inshallah, I'll open up for any questions after that. So first of all, you have to obey the commands of any law enforcement. If you get pulled over, whatever the case might be, you get stopped, you are required to obey our commands. You're required to identify yourself. If a law enforcement officer asks you for your identity, you have to identify yourself. But in no way, shape, or form do you have to answer questions. So that's the first thing. Like, you have to understand that you have a right to remain silent. Meaning, like, anything outside of identity, or something. There's very small circumstances that remaining silent can be used against you, and the only time that I can think of is loitering. Like, essentially, if somebody is in a place where they shouldn't be, that would cause a security alert to me or one of my colleagues, then we have to question you about that. And if you don't answer our questions, then that could be used against you. That's the only circumstance that I can think of off the top of my head. There may be a couple others, but typically speaking, you have a right to remain silent. You don't have to answer questions. And you have a right to talk to an attorney and ask for an attorney. And don't ever think that, oh, he's being nice to me or whatever the case might be. If the question is not related to, you know, my investigation and just identifying you, then you don't have to answer it. Okay. It is our job to investigate cases, and I can tell you, even as a former detective, I love people love to answer our questions. That 9 times out of 10, they'll answer our questions, and it's about establishing this rapport of, you know, friendship, and I'm here for you. You know, I'm here to help you out. But understand, you have a right to remain silent. If me, as a law enforcement professional, if I'm being questioned for anything outside of, you know, internal or anything like that, then I'm gonna ask for an attorney. And it's not because I have anything to hide. It's not like that. It's my right, and I'm gonna exercise my right. So I know that, and another thing I want to preface, like, I know I cannot comment on anything specifically that's happening, you know, across the country or anything like that. So please don't ask me about that because I can't comment on it. What I will say is this: is that, like I said in the beginning, the actions of some bad officers make all of us look bad, and it angers me to see someone's rights violated. But typically, like, if you get, let's say you get pulled over on a traffic stop, you have to provide your identification, provide your driver's license, et cetera, et cetera. But you're not required to answer questions beyond that point. You can exercise your right to remain silent and do it respectfully. You know, don't be disrespectful or anything like that. Just respectfully, I'm gonna exercise my right to remain silent, and I'd like to speak to an attorney. If any questioning goes beyond that, but you know, if law enforcement come to your door, we have to have your home is a separate, like, the Supreme Courts have designated residents and even temporary residents. Like, if you're a roommate or something, like something temporary, that you're entitled to the highest level of protection from any kind of search or seizure. And we as law enforcement officers have to get a, you know, with the exception of a couple exceptions, I'm not going to get into the details of that, but typically speaking, we have to have, you know, a reason to go inside your home, and whether it's question you or search your home or whatever the case might be. So with regards to local law enforcement, and again, I can only speak on the behalf of my perspective as a local law enforcement, but we have to have a search warrant, okay? Or we have to have what's called exigent circumstance. You know, like I said, I'm not going to get too much into the detail, but that's like a fresh pursuit or an emergency, medical condition, something that life-saving, you know, you have to get in the house, then we're allowed to get in the house without a warrant. But outside of the exigent circumstances, we have to have a warrant. And you as a homeowner, or in your home, or even as a you know, whatever business, whatever the case might be, in the privacy of your residence especially, you have a right to that privacy. So if law enforcement knocks on your door, you have a right to say, keep your door closed. You don't have to open your door. And you can talk to us through the door, say, what can I help you with? Oh, we got a warrant. Okay, can you show me the warrant? Can you slide under the door? What's the warrant for? Where's the warrant? Was the warrant signed by a judge, and what kind of judge? ICE actually has to have a federal warrant signed by a federal judge. We get warrants signed by local judges. But anyways, okay, slide the warrant under the door. Can you do that? And typically, if we're knocking on your door and saying that we have a warrant, typically that's not going to happen because there's something called no-knock warrants, which means that we're going to break your door down and we're going to search it. That's what the definition, no-knock warrants. That's where the name comes from. But if we are knocking and claim to have a warrant, then me as law enforcement, I don't see any harm in somebody asking me, can you slide the warrant under the door? Sure, no problem. I'll do that. But, you know, just I want to make sure that you guys understand you don't have to open the door for the police. Okay? You can keep your door closed and tell me, come back with a warrant. And people do that all the time. And unfortunately, I will say that I've seen that Muslims, unfortunately, are very naive and think that, you know, I don't want to be like, you know, too pointing out so that people think I'm talking about them, but typically I see that, you know, people think they don't want to think that this can happen to me, that happened over there, that can't happen in my house, or I'm protected, or whatever the case might be. Please don't be naive, and understand that, yeah, it can happen to you. But with that being said, I'll open up for brief questions. Yeah. So ICE is a law enforcement agency. They are law enforcement officers. They're federal officers. So it's a little bit different, but you are still protected from, you know, to exercise your rights, and it angers. You don't have to answer any questions. It angers me to see the videos of people having their rights violated. Okay, but understand, like, don't give them fuel by running away from them or fighting with them or anything like that. If they demand your identification, then give them your identification. You know, don't argue with them and don't fight with them on the side of the road. But you also have a right to say, I want to speak to an attorney. So, yes. Well, I did speak to a couple people, and essentially, even with U.S. citizenship, like if you have a passport, take a picture of your passport, keep it on your phone. That's my personal recommendation. Take a picture of your passport, keep it on your phone, Visa, whatever the case might be. Now here's the thing. I, as a law enforcement officer, am sworn to protect everybody, regardless of whether you're a citizen or you're immigrant, or my own family is immigrant. But regardless of that fact, I'm here to protect you. So, like, the fact that people get afraid, oh, I'm going to be reported to ICE, I don't want to call 911 and victimize themselves to crimes, that angers me. And understand that if I, as a professional, show up to your house and you've been the victim of a crime, then I'm going to investigate that crime. I'm not worried about your immigration status, okay? However, there are regulations in place because nowadays all agencies talk to each other. And there's regulations in place that, you know, if you're concerned about your status in particular, then you need to talk to an attorney, because there's no better advice I can give you other than speak to an attorney, um, because it's just like the law enforcement agencies communicate with each other, and if I take a report, you know, from whatever, that report goes to ICE, and ICE will see this their own back end, do their investigation, and determine, is this person here illegally, is this person legal, how do they come in the country, all that other stuff. So if you're concerned about a particular situation, you need to speak to an attorney, and don't wait. That's the other thing. Do not wait. Right away, just speak to an attorney if you think that, you know, you have any particular questions. We have, any law enforcement officer can ask you anything, okay? But typically you have a right not to answer questions. Now, they can do their own investigation without you answering questions. Like, if I pull you over, for example, and I start asking you, okay, where were you born? I don't want to answer questions. That's fine. It's a civil investigation, so I can keep asking you questions. Okay, how'd you come in the country? And I don't want to answer your questions. Okay, where are you coming from? I mean, typically, sometimes that's even like part of my traffic stop, so that's not a good example. But anyway, um, you know, the other thing is also nothing. The Supreme Courts to protect the recording of law enforcement in the course of their duty, meaning you can always take out your cell phone and start recording. I actually welcome it. You know, I have a recording on my body camera, and I tell people that recording, that's perfect. You're perfectly fine. Keep recording. I'm recording as well. So, you know, take out your phone and start recording. Every traffic stop. Tell your family. Take out all you guys. Take out your phone and start recording. I as a police, you know, officer, when I walk up to a car and everyone's recording, I welcome it. I'm not, put your phones away. No, that's not my you know, that's not my way. But to answer your question, we can ask anything, and we can continue to ask anything, even if you refuse to answer. Like, if you refuse to answer my first question, I can ask you another question and another question. The only time, because, so immigration is a civil thing. It's not criminal. So I don't have to read you Miranda rights before we start asking you about immigration. Okay? Same thing with ICE. But if criminal investigations are a little bit different, like if you ask for an attorney during a criminal investigation, the questioning stops. Okay? I can't ask you any more questions. But just a second. But if you refuse to answer my questions or ICE's questions or whatever, any law enforcement agency's questions, that's fine. You can choose to do that, but they're still going to do their investigation. They're still going to look into whether or not you have legal status, and they have their own tools, you know, to look into that. You do have to identify yourself. Identify yourself, whether it's your driver's license, passport, whatever it is. You have to identify yourself. You can't refuse to identify yourself. And once you identify yourself, ICE is going to do their own investigation, whether you answer their questions or not. Does that make sense? I'm not going to disagree with you. Yeah. I I understand, and believe me, that angers me. Yeah, I get it, and like I said, that angers me. It really it boils my blood. It boils my blood. It's a scary thought. but I'm not gonna disagree with you. But I think yeah. No. Okay. Uh, I mean, can you be a little more specific? Like you asking me if I ask you what are you doing here, and ask me what though? Yeah, yeah. You can. Well, so I would highly suggest that you don't argue, but you can respectfully ask. You know, am I free to leave? Okay. And if I say yes, you're free to leave, then just okay. Have a nice day. Bye. And if I say no, you're not free to leave. Okay, at that point you're detained. And now either if I'm detaining you, there's a reason that I'm doing that. And like I said, there's only certain circumstances where not answering my questions can hurt you. And one example of that would be the loitering statute. But and because I have to prove your, or I have to give you the opportunity to expel my fears, if that makes sense. Like if I see you in a place where you shouldn't be at a behind a closed business, then I'm in fear for the safety and security of that business. I can get out with you. I can investigate you for loitering and prowling. Okay, and if you don't, dispel my fears for the security of that business, then you can be arrested. So that would be the one situation that I can think of where not answering questions can actually hurt you. So, well, if they ask if they ask if they're being detained, then yes, I will tell them they are being detained for loitering and prowling. And if they refuse to answer my questions after that, then they go to jail. No, it's a completely different. Well, the ICE is a federal agency, the federal law enforcement agency. Um, Local law enforcement are under different regulations and stuff like that than federal law enforcement agencies. Um, and like I just also want to comment on that real quick. I've trained a lot being a police officer, and just my personal perspective, I see that a lot of federal law enforcement is now getting hired like kids from high school, giving them giving them a gun, saying go be the police. With I don't know how their training works. I don't want to comment on that. I don't know much about it, but it's I'm watching a lot of these videos, and some of the first things that pop in my head is why did you walk in front of the car? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? For me, because I'm also a trainer. I train as a field trainer. I train newer officers and new hires. So my first perspective on watching some of that is why did you put yourself in that officer safety problem, or possible problem? But again, I can't comment on anything like in specific or anything like that. But typically, the police departments are, while they are separate from ICE, we do have a working relationship with ICE and federal agencies. Yeah, yes, and Yes, that and more. So, sorry. I'm sorry. So the question was when I run somebody in my computer, I see access to your identity and stuff like that. ICE has uh, definitely has connection to that, and even more than likely more, because all nowadays all agencies in the past, like I would say 15, 20 years, law enforcement agencies, we all work together. So yeah, we do communicate with ICE. We communicate with everybody. We have to, like, if I stop somebody that is possible illegal alien, I have to notify ICE. It's not an option. My hands are tied. ICE gets notified, and they make that decision. Okay, we're gonna take a action, deport or not. Um, but yeah, they have access to everything, and if you have a criminal record, you're you very well could be looking at deportation, and nowadays. So any kind of criminal record, and from any time, it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be a you know theft charge in 20 years ago. Any kind of record, then you're on ICE's radar. If you are you know have any sort of travel documentation or visa, I don't know any particular situation, but anytime you have a criminal record, you get put on ICE's radar, and every law enforcement agency's radar. To where, sorry. Well, I mean, not citizens for ICE, but you still go on everybody's radar. Everybody sees that criminal charge. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question, or? I I I I, I agree with you. I agree. I completely agree. But here's the thing. And here's the problem with that is, um, it's not in our hands. Like, it's literally Trump. Yeah. Well, typically, like, ICE is monitoring, the people that go into the jail and people that go into the system. And if you're born outside the United States, ICE is going to be notified. And it's not even like a phone call. It's like automatic. They're flagging every arrest for anybody born outside the United States. Yeah, I agree. I, I agree. That very possible. Yes, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying, like, if you get a criminal charge and you're not U.S. citizen, born in the U.S., you are on their radar. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, we'll come. Can we get a? Is there an extra microphone or can I just, like? Okay, I'll just bring the microphone and show.
Assalamu alaikum. So if we get pulled over, do they let us know that we are ICE or we're just local law enforcement, or they don't have to let us know? That's one question. If we get pulled over, do we get to know that, hey, I'm ICE, whoever's pulling us over, the police officer, or are you understanding my question? would he say, yeah? Yeah, so I have another question too. The other question is, if I get pulled over, I don't want to have my passport on my phone, but I have my driver's license, and that should be fine and valid. That's my ID. Another thing is to reach for my driver's license. Somebody told me you can't even reach for anything, and that's going to be my natural instinct to go and grab where my license is. And they said no, they could hurt you if you go and grab where your license is. So do you remind the person that don't reach for anything, because we're gonna, you're not supposed to reach for anything? Because I would be naturally just say, okay, here it is, let me go get it. And then they say, well, you were gonna do something to us, and in turn I get hurt because of that. So are you getting, there's two questions. One is ICE, one is, am I a police officer, or can I reach for my license? That's,
So with regards to the first question, yeah, you will know if it's an ICE agent stopping you or a local law enforcement. Very, very different. So typically, like when I pull somebody over, I'll introduce myself. My name is Corporal Arafo with the Panama City Beach Police Department. The reason I stopped you is 1, 2, and 3. That's typically how I introduce myself as in a traffic stop. And with regards to like reaching for things and stuff like that, yeah, don't reach unless like I'll ask for your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance, and if you say, well, my driver's license is in my glove compartment, my next question is gonna be, okay, do you have any weapons in there? Yes. Okay, don't reach for it. That's fine, no problem. We'll take care of it. No, no weapons in there. Okay, go ahead and reach for it. So it really depends on the situation, with whether or not you can reach. You can always point to say, this is my my driver's license is in my bag in the back seat or in the trunk or whatever the case might be. But yeah, don't be reaching around on a traffic stop without explaining that my driver's license is over there. Can I reach for it? Yes, you can reach for it. But does that answer your questions? So, well, typically, like when if I feel uncomfortable on a traffic stop, A, I'm gonna ask for another officer. B, I'm gonna tell you, put your hands on the steering wheel, put your hands on the dashboard. So it's not gonna be unclear. If you're digging around in your purse and I don't want you digging around in your purse, I will tell you, take your hand out of your purse, take your hand out of your pockets, and I'll be very clear about it. It's not gonna be, you know, oh, but my driver's license isn't in here. No, I said take your hand out of your purse. Put your hands on the steering wheel. Whatever the case might be. Um, no law enforcement officer will arrest you for, having your hand in your purse or reaching for your driver's license or wallet or anything like that. Nobody's gonna hurt you for that either. No, absolutely not. No, 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 no. We were not gonna shoot you. We're not gonna shoot you for reaching for your driver's license. Again, I can't comment on anybody in particular. I don't know. I don't know what type of training they receive. But I do know that there are a lot of very good ICE agents. Typically speaking, in law enforcement in general, just like in the beginning of my talk, bad actions of a couple of people put the spotlight on all Muslims. And the same thing happens with law enforcement. A couple of bad actions out there put the spotlight on all law enforcement, and everybody thinks that we're all bad. We're all out there to shoot you and hurt you and all that stuff. We're not. that's essentially like, you know, I don't know of any law enforcement officer out of the thousands that I've met that, including ICE, that would, hurt you for reaching for your driver's license. Now, typically, I will tell you, you have a right to record everything that we do. So, yeah. So as soon as my lights come on behind you, you can take out your phone and hold it up to your window like this. Nothing's stopping you from doing that. And that's definitely not illegal. A I would highly, in fact, I recommend it. You know, if as soon as the blue lights come on, take out your cell phone. Tell your kids to take out their cell phones and start recording. There's nothing that prevents you from recording the police, especially in public interactions. Now, do not go up to an investigation, because now in Florida there's something called the HALO law. So if I tell you you need to back up, I don't want to back up. I'm recording you. Okay, now you're going to jail. And I would only say it once, but there's nothing that prevents you from the police interacting with you recording it. Don't go out of your way to, walk up to a traffic stop or whatever and start filming. Unless you're doing it from a safe distance, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But don't interfere with the law enforcement. Does that make sense? Yes. Um, for as far as I'm concerned, so the question is, if I don't want to keep a picture of my passport, is it enough to have a driver's license or a social security card? That's the question. As far as, and now keep in mind, I can only answer in terms of me, local police. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, driver's license is all I need to identify you. Now though, there's different laws going on with immigration. So I can't really tell you whether or not that would be enough for ICE. I can say that I've spoken to a couple immigration officers that say they like to see a passport or something that documents citizenship, whether that's passport card or social security card or whatever the case might be, but something that would document some sort of immigration status. Because they do not recognize the Florida or state issued driver's license as federal identification. I do not know about military ID. I don't know about that. I can ask inshallah and get back to you guys. Yes. So yeah, when we run your driver's license, yes, it notifies us whether or not you're a citizen. It like I said, it depends on how, you know they operate. I can tell you from my perspective, as far as I need it, I need your driver's license. You give me your driver's license. If I'm an immigration officer and I ask for your passport, if you have it, you have to give it. I wouldn't flat out refuse to give it to them, but I believe so. Yeah, I would not carry around my passport everywhere I go. You mean money? Oh, nothing. Yeah, I don't. No, no. And here's the thing. Like, I wanna, I wanna. That's the quotas are illegal. Yeah, I don't know much about that, but I can tell you quotas are illegal. So we don't get paid anything. And even like some people ask me, well, how much do you get paid for the ticket that you write me? Not even a penny. Literally, not even a penny. But mhm. Yeah, the taxpayers. Yeah, everybody. It costs everyone. Yeah, I don't know anything about the money. I'm not involved with that. I do not know. Typically, so every agency has a different, method of identifying. Now, I don't have to identify myself to you. I can pull you over as police officer. Legally, I don't have to say my name is Otto. I'm Corporal Otterfeld of the Panama City Beach Police Department. The reason I stopped you is because blah 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 blah. There's no law that governs that, but there are different agency directives and policies in place that say when you stop a car, you identify yourself like this, that, and the other. I don't know the policies for ICE, but I believe so. Yes. Well, you can ask like, do you have any type of identification as a agent or an officer? Yeah. Show me a badge or something. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 You can ask me. Take out your phone and you know record them saying that and sue them in court. That's the best answer I can give you, honestly. Um, no, I'm not. No. No. We're not making anybody's job hard. I just want to make sure. Hmm. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you you can, but understand that anything you say in terms of, oh, I'm coming from here, I'm coming from there, that can be used against you in immigration court. Yeah, everything, any type of question outside of identifying. Well,
So this might be a tough one, but Brother Yusuf, would you suggest that we have an ICE agent come out and talk to us? And maybe the board or the masjid has to decide. Because if there's some questions that are delicate for you, maybe they can say, hey, if we stop you, then this is what we want from you, and this is how we're going to behave towards you. Do you think that's something that needs to be done? Or, I mean, obviously the board has to talk about this, everybody has to feel comfortable about this, but I feel maybe that might be another, you know, some suggestion that, you know. And do you have your? Okay.
So, My question is, and you may have already answered it, but just to clarify, if an ICE agent stops you and you don't have a copy of your passport and they request your passport, what next? Because I know if a local law enforcement officer stops you, you don't have your ID, you can show it at a different time. It's not that big of a deal. But with a federal ICE agent, do you know what might happen?
So, inshallah, in terms of the first sister's first question, like she's asking, I think it would not be a bad idea. If the board wants to talk about, bringing somebody from the ICE or something like that, or immigration officer. I'm not an immigration officer. I know a couple, but I'm not particularly one. But that would be something that you guys can discuss. And in terms of how to, like, if you leave your passport at home or driver's license at home, typically with us it's a ticket. Like if I pull you over and you don't have your driver's license, I can give you a ticket for that. And that's about all I can do, as long as you don't refuse to identify yourself. Now, if I ask your name, your birth date, your social, and all that, and you don't give it to me, or you give me fake information, that's a different story. But typically, like, you know, if you don't have your passport, I don't know what would be next for ICE. I can tell you that they can run their investigation just based off your information. They have access to their system and they can run their investigation and figure out whether or not you're legally allowed to be here based on their tools and what they have without your passport. But if you do have it, it makes it easier for you to just give them your passport or a picture of it or whatever. Sorry? Sure. Yeah. And I get that. And like I said, if everybody, you know, if you have a particular situation, you need to talk to a lawyer. There's no easier way for me to put that outside than just talk to a lawyer. I don't know. I don't know, brother.
Do we have any other questions? Last one, inshallah. You conclude after.
As far as I'm concerned, ICE has records of everything. Just like all law enforcement agencies communicate with each other, and typically we're actually pretty good about talking to each other. Now, that doesn't mean that you didn't have a driver's license just because you forgot it at home because you're coming home from fishing or whatever. It doesn't mean that you don't have a valid driver's license. It just means that you forgot it at your house. It's a separate ticket than driving without a license. Does that answer your question? Driving without a license, that would put you on ICE's radar because it's a criminal offense. Any type of criminal offense would put you on the radar. Not having one at all. Not keeping it at home, that's different story. Forgetting it at home, different story. Not having one and driving, like not having one period issued to you and driving, yes, that's criminal.
All right.
Anybody else?
Any more ice? You freeze. Sometimes you freeze when you see ice. All right. So, Dr. Ahmed, and that's the last one, inshallah.
With a search warrant. Yes. Yes. Yeah, if you don't have a search warrant, you can prevent them from coming inside.
All right, Jazakallah khair, Brother Yusuf. May Allah bless you. Thank you for the information. May Allah keep us all safe. Barakallah feekum. Assalamu alaikum.